What's up YouTube, Capital G here, got another amazing deck profile for you guys to check out. This time we have one of my personal favorites, Dark Magician. This is one that people were actually requesting. People were like, yo Cap, give us an updated version of your Dark Magicians. And I was like, well, I have been working on this deck for a couple of months now. I feel pretty confident in showing it off. As I've said before guys, and I will always say, I try to make these decks to be as competitive as humanly possible, and when Dark Magician gets set up with his combo, it can be a nightmare for your opponent to actually play against. Do not sleep on the power of Dark Magician, especially with the spicy tech that I have going on with this deck. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into it, and if you guys like these deck profiles, all you got to do is give the video a thumbs up. That lets me know that you are enjoying these videos. So we played 3 copies, of course, of the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. That would be the Dark Magician. It's non-negotiable. If you want to run Dark Magician, you need to be playing 3 copies of this card. I feel obligated, as I did in my last Dark Magician deck profile sometime back, to point out that this is my personal favorite. You guys can run whatever artworks that you want. I'm doing a little bit of flexing right now, I'm not gonna lie. Do not run 6 copies of Dark Magician. I'm just showing you guys that I have basically all the Dark Magician artworks. I have all of them because I do enjoy Dark Magician that much. Just pick any 3 of them and throw them in your deck. You can run the same artwork on just 3 copies, but I don't know. I've always considered that to be kind of boring. So I always run a minimum of 3, and the Arcana Dark Magician is always in my deck. 3 copies of Rod. This is the best normal summon in the Dark Magician archetype. You normal summon it, and you get a Dark Magician spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Usually you want to go for Circle, because Circle can also give you another +1, and that can potentially be a +2 off of your normal summon. So you're always playing 3 copies of your Magician's Rod. I played 3 copies of Apprentice Illusion Magician. This is a card that recently I had cut down to 2. I bumped it back up to 3. I had been doing a lot of testing. At 3, I felt like I was opening with it a little too much. At 2, I wasn't seeing it enough. But what I really learned about this card was you don't always have to summon it. A lot of times it's perfectly fine, especially if you have Rod, to just leave it in your hand and use the hand trap effect, where if any of your dark spellcasters are battling an opponent's monster, you can discard her. That monster gains 2,000 attack. So a lot of times you can just use her as a defensive card instead of an offensive card if the situation calls for that. So I do like her at 3 a little more than 2. We have 1 copy of your Magician of Dark Illusion. In the past, before Dark Magician got better cards, I feel like this is a card that you had to run multiples of, but honestly, don't run multiples of this card. It's not even, like, you don't even want to draw it that much, to be honest. A lot of times you just want to summon it off navigation. The best thing about it is it counts as Dark Magician on the field. It can summon your DM from the graveyard, but the fact that it doesn't count as Dark Magician in the graveyard really hurts the playability of the card. I mean, still, I think 1 is perfectly fine. Now here comes the tech, and a lot of you guys will be like, what are you doing with this build? We run 1 copy of Silent Magician, 1 copy of Darkest Diablos, and 1 copy of Blue Boy, Spellbook Magician of Prophecy. I feel like Blue Boy probably needs the least explaining, because this is just another good normal summon. As I've said in the past, Dark Magician really only has 1 in Rod. This allows you to normal summon itself and basically get Spellbook and Knowledge from your deck. Then you can draw 2 cards. Knowledge can be used with any of your other Dark Magician cards, so Knowledge works fine. Even if you hard draw and you don't have access to Blue Boy, this basically just gets you 2 draws off your normal summon to get your combos established. Silent Magician gives Dark Magician something that it desperately needs, and that is negation. This deck only has one inherent negation card, which would be navigation. This allows you to tribute your Dark Magicians or your Rod and have a walking spell negator every single turn during your opponent's turn and your turn. Also, as long as you have a couple of cards in your hand, it is going to be 2,000 attack. It's not the easiest thing to take down. Then our most controversial monster in this entire deck, Darkest Diablos. Believe it or not, this card is not that difficult to summon in Dark Magician. Number 1, all your monsters outside of Blue Boy are dark in this deck. Well, I guess Silent Magician and a hand trap, but your main monsters you're going to be summoning are all dark, and they obviously, if you tribute them, you can summon Darkest Diablos. You can do that with Magician Rod's effect. You can do that with the Illusion Magic spell card, or you can do that with Beat Cop from the Underworld, which is in our extra deck. All of those cards are just solid, and it's really easy to summon this card, especially during the battle phase. A lot of times you can OTK by using illusion magic and, you know, getting some of your Dark Magicians, then summoning this card during the battle phase. It's actually pretty crazy. And yeah, Darkest Diablos is also just really hard for decks like Ultrageist and Sky Strikers to be able to out. Like, they don't have natural and they don't have like consistent outs to the card since they can't target it. Our final monster is Ash Blossom Joy Springs. Pretty much the, like, I guess the most universal of all hand traps in Yu-Gi-Oh! People call it a low impact card, which it kind of is, but the thing is, Ash Blossom is good against every single deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! There is no deck that doesn't have something that you can't Ash. So even in matchups like True Draco and, you know, like Guru Control, where Phantasme is like unplayable, Ash can still put in some work. If I was going to take out Ash, I probably would go for Phantasme just because I'd want a super high impact card, not something like Effect Veil or something that is not going to do a whole lot of work when I actually play it. So I feel like Ash Blossom is perfectly fine. We play, of course, 3 copies of Dark Magical Circle. This is your main removal card, and it's Dark Magician's primary way of defending itself during the opponent's turn. Summon a Dark Magician, activate the effect to banish one of your opponent's cards, and, you know, kind of disrupt them over and over again. Obviously, the Salaman Great Foxy effect of this card, where when you activate it, you can see the top 3 cards of your deck. If there's a Dark Magician or Dark Magician spell, add the card to your hand for free. That's really good as well. We play our Dark Magician spell cards, I guess our other ones. That would be Illusion Magic, Dark Magical Inheritance, and Dark Magic Attack. This one is a Feather Duster, and it's probably the most powerful of the 3 cards here, but it also is just kind of a brick if you hard draw it. You really don't want to hard draw it because you can add it from Eternal Soul. This one lets us tribute our spellcasters and then add some Dark Magicians from our graveyard or our deck. As I said before, this can summon Darkest Diablos, which is awesome. By the way, Darkest Diablos, if you hard draw it, just discard it for Apprentice Magician. It's not really that big of a deal. This is the one Inheritance that I have a love-hate relationship, because if you draw this card too early in the duel, you might not have 2 spell cards in your graveyard to use it. So sometimes when I see it early, I don't love it, but it is a card that we can add off a circle, so that is kind of nice. Now, we are playing some draw cards, and you guys know I've never liked Pot of Desires in Dark Magician. Allure Darkness has always been pretty decent, but this card is just better than both of them. Anybody who has been watching this channel for more than like a couple of weeks knows Pot of Extravagance is one of my favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. I can put this card in damn near anything, and Dark Magician only has a couple of Xyz monsters and some fusions. We don't play the fusions, we just play the Xyz, which means we don't really care about our extra deck. Dark Magician only goes into the extra deck maybe once or twice per duel. You're not going to your extra deck all that much. Mainly, Dark Magician Beatdown is kind of the win condition of the deck, so Extravagance is always quite amazing, and it's just one of the better spell cards to start out with, because you draw 2 cards, and then it's like, man, you really are going to be close to getting your combo assembled. I also played 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Okay, so I've been going back and forth with cards like Effect Veiler and Solemn Strike. I ultimately decided that Called by the Grave was the best, because this deck, as you guys probably have seen, is super susceptible to hand traps, specifically Ash Blossom, which of course is the most popular. Ash Blossom can stop your navigation, it can stop your rod, your blue boy, your secrets, your Pot of Extravagance. Basically, it just screws over like half your cards, and we want to be able to stop hand traps. We want our plays going through so that we can get to our combo pieces as quickly as possible. I do run a Spellbook engine as well. I run 2 copies of Spellbook of Secrets, and then I run the other copy of, or the 1 copy of Spellbook of Knowledge. The reason that I run 2 secrets and 1 knowledge, even though usually you can only resolve secrets once because I just run the 1 blue boy, is because the fact is I want to see this card more than I want to see this. If my opening hand doesn't like look particularly great, a secret, or excuse me, a knowledge is not going to do anything. It doesn't really do anything by itself in a vacuum. It just doesn't do anything unless you already have a spellcaster you can normal summon, but this card will get me Blue Boy, which will get me my knowledge, and that'll get me 2 more additional cards. So this card basically is a combo in itself. This card is not. It's just a way to kind of dig deeper into your deck. That is it for the spell cards. Finally, we have the traps. I don't run that many traps in Dark Magician, but I mean, any build of Dark Magician that wants to be credible is always going to run 3 copies of Eternal Soul. It's Monster Reborn every single turn. It adds your Dark Magic attack, and it keeps your Dark Magicians protected from, well, basically anything your opponent throws at them outside of battle. This is just one of like the combo pieces that you got to get set up. We played 2 copies of Magician's Navigation. I've never thought that 3 was the right number. If you play 3 navigation, you're going to draw it constantly and you're not going to have the Dark Magicians to use it with. So I feel like 2, you'll see it enough, but you won't actually like always be opening with the card. Between your navigations and your Eternal Soul, summoning your Dark Magician from your hand, not going to be a problem. We play another hand trap. This is our literal hand trap in 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is just kind of a card in here that there's really nothing better. You could run Solemns or Effect Failures, but honestly, I feel like Impermanence right now is a little better. When you go second, it gives you that disruption against your opponent. Also, pretty good card to set. And then you guys know I've always been a fan of Skill Drain in Dark Magician, and our final trap card is Solemn Judgment, by the way. I feel like my life was not complete in Yu-Gi-Oh! Until I got the ultra rare version of Skill Drain. But yeah, I've always been a fan of Skill Drain and Dark Magician because for the most part, Dark Magician is just kind of a vanilla beatdown. Your win condition is getting Dark Magicians on the field, using Circle to banish all your opponent's cards, and then just beating the crap out of them with Dark Magician. Skill Drain just shuts everything down. By the way, Darkest Diablos can activate under Skill Drain. It does stop things like Rod and Blue Boy from activating, but for the most part, if you have Dark Magician and you have Circle Eternal Soul, Skill Drain will hurt your opponent way more than it hurts you, and Solemn Judgment just stops everything. So I honestly feel like it's a really solid card. Plus, if you lose your Eternal Soul, most of the time you lose the duel. So Solemn Judgment protects against that. To our extra deck, we're playing 2 copies of Beat Cop from the Underworld. The reason we're playing multiples of a lot of these cards is because we play Extravagance. Beat Cop is very important in this deck because the deck is Dark Attribute. So it's very easy to summon this with 2 Dark Monsters and then use the effect and basically give your Eternal Soul extra protection so your opponent can't kill it. At the same time, when you tribute a dark monster, mainly you want to tribute this, you can actually summon your Darkest Diablos from the graveyard for free. We play 2 copies of Wee Witch's Apprentice. It's just, I mean, it's a good card. Basically, if you have Dark Magicians on the field, just go ahead and link them away for this. You get a little more damage. Usually you can summon your Dark Magician back for free anyways. We play 1 copy of Daybreaker, the Shining Magician, excuse me, Shining Magical Warrior. That tells you how often I summon this card. It's just in there just in case. We don't really summon the card that often, but honestly, I kind of feel like it should be there just in case. I play 1 copy of Link Spider. This might seem like a downgrade using this or using your Dark Magician to go into Link Spider, but basically if you only have 1 Dark Magician that you're juggling with Eternal Soul, you would rather link it away for Link Spider and then be able to summon it back from your graveyard to disrupt your opponent and banish one of their cards during their turn rather than not having that option. So yeah, usually this just gives you a little more damage. Actually, excuse me, I lied. We play 2 copies of Link Spider. Again, this is just for like extravagance, and the rest of the cards, Nightmare, like 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix. Again, play multiple copies because if you banish them from Extravagance, it will be a very, very sad day. We play 2 copies of Nightmare Cerberus, same exact reason. And then we have our sea monsters. We're playing 2 copies of Ebon Illusion. I do not think Ebon High is really good. To be honest, this is probably the most made card that I summon. You will go into this card a lot. Most of the time when you do go into Ebon Illusion, you're not going to lose the duel. It's an incredibly strong card. Not only can it summon a Dark Magician from your deck, but then when a normal monster attacks, you can banish one of your opponent's monsters, so the card has inherent removal, which is awesome. We play Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack, which can activate under Skill Drain. It contribute itself to pop one of your opponent's cards. Always been a really solid card in Dark Magician. Rank 7s are just natural in this deck. We do play our burn card. as our final monster in Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon. This is just if your opponent is really low on life points and you don't have any stun options. You go into this and you basically put them on the clock. You say, hey, you can only activate 3 cards, otherwise you're going to burn to death or something like that. So there are situations that arise where Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon is actually pretty good. And then for the final card that we do not play, we do not play the Eye of Timaeus or, obviously, the Dark Magician fusion monsters. And the reason I don't play these is because, well, Konami has that really stupid ruling where the Eye of Timaeus cannot be added by Rod, it can't be added by Circle, and it kind of just kills the playability of this card because it means you have to hard draw this card, and that's not really reliable in this deck. I also feel like if we did run the fusion monsters, because we run Extravagance, we'd have to run multiples of them, and I'm not even really sure if that would be worth it for a card that we can't even search anyways. So I just feel like this card, it's good, but it's just not worth it in this build of Dark Magician. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the deck profile. If you guys want to see more, you know what to do. Give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.